Hey, this is Totem Pole Nation, and this is the Life Lessons Podcast. This is Coach Bald's one day off of the week, which that's nice. He's off Mondays. Goes and eats burgers at Willie's Burgers and Fries down in St. Petersburg. Coach Hutch is on today. Coach Hutch, I named this Underestimating Stupidity. Now, this weekend, I took my son, who turned 12 on May 8th, and I have not beaten around the bush. I am the number one John Morant fan in the world. The most rookie cards, the most jerseys, the most figures. But now, I've done a little bit further research. It looks like it was a graduation party, probably for his sister. Coach Hutch, what is your take on the one John Morant?
So they didn't know when the photo was taken, but John Morant was photographed with another gun, and right now it says suspended indefinitely or until the investigation. So going from rookie of the year to having, kind of the same stuff happen. I forget. I wanted to say T.O., but it wasn't T.O. Whoever shot himself in the club, the football player.
Mexico Burris?
Yeah, Plexico. That's very similar vibes is what I'm getting out of this whole situation.
Yeah. So we have footage that we're going to show. All right. This is exclusive. Now, some people are saying that the song written by TLC was actually written for John Morant. Now, I find that hard to believe because it's almost 30 years between this song and this incident that just occurred.
I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. Hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. No.
Here it was.
I don't want no scrub.
Did you see it, Coach? Did you see it?
No, I didn't really see it. No,
all right, hold on.
Hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub.
There it is. You can't. It's hard to see.
Hard to tell.
It's hard to see, but one thing I've learned is in this cell phone age, if they would have had cell phones when I was a kid, I probably wouldn't be here today. But, supposedly it was from what I saw, because I saw some footage of his aunt's Instagram, and it was a graduation party. And he had the red hat on. He had the same outfit. He also was dancing on the top of that car, but he pulled out the gun. And his buddy, his friend, was on Instagram Live when he knew that Ja had, we'll say the thing out, the weapon. He threw the camera down. He threw the phone down because he's like, oh, crap. I mean, some people are saying that is his Second Amendment right.
Well, the way that the people got to look at things, right? If you are a normal, everyday, average citizen, if you're in Memphis, you can carry a loaded or unloaded weapon outside in the daylight, on your head, wherever you want. You do not need a permit. And this is specifically for handguns. They allowed that July 1st, 2021. But you got to look at when you are a public figure, you're going to be scrutinized way, way, way worse. Imagine the flip, it changes. He's at a shooting range shooting a gun. He's at a designated area where he's allowed to go shoot. But he's in a car, he pulls out his gun. Loaded, unloaded, there's really no difference in terms of the fact of the gun being out. Obviously, the usage at a shooting range is a lot, more appropriate than pulling your gun out when you're in the front seat of a car. But the end result is you add that public figure check mark, you're gonna face repercussions.
Yeah. So I've not hidden around the fact that I was a huge John Morant fan. And I still am. I'm still a Ja fan. I don't know what's going to happen to him. I tweeted out that somebody needed to talk to him to help him. Even tweeted Allen Iverson, Bubba Chuck, needed to talk to him to get him straight. But, they say that he is a huge fan of NBA YoungBoy. And NBA YoungBoy is being blamed for all this in his music. And this was someone got the new logo from Nike, and they put it there, the NBA Dumb Boy, and he's that looks very, very similar to the Jumpman, Coach.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. But there's always going to be somebody out there placing blame and saying, well, it's I can't tell you how many times that after a mass shooting in the United States, which, doesn't really happen much anywhere else. So definitely something we got to fix. But they go back to saying video games are the problem. Well, Coach, you had family fought in wars for our country. I had family fought in wars for our country. Specifically, let's go World War II. What games were available in World War II that contributed to the mass extermination of Jews, vagrants, homosexuals, anybody not of the Aryan race? Or what contributed to Stalin killing 12 million people or 20 million, depending on that?
Evil.
Yeah, evil. It wasn't chess, wasn't checkers, it wasn't mahjong, wasn't games. So, I'll take that argument, throw it right out of the window. Music, there are always going to be people that say that music is, contributing to the delinquency of minors and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, listen, it's art. And yes, no matter what, you're going to have people that are going to try to emulate things. And, you talk about guns and drugs and sex and rock and roll and you name it. There's always going to be people that are going to, try to emulate those things. I mean, you look at ZZ Top and how many people went out, started wearing all black and wearing sunglasses.
It looks like we have a member.
Right. Yeah. There's ZZ Top
that's joining us. There he is.
ZZ Tim.
Now, Tim. Ja Morant, my favorite player, has been videoed on Instagram Live again with a handgun. He's been suspended from the NBA. Is there any helping this young man, Jim Tim, in your opinion?
Depends how bad they're going to suspend him for.
Well, Sean Payton, who I saw a video of using a water pipe, he hasn't been suspended from the NFL. He had a 1-year suspension. Came back.
Are you sure that was him though?
Looks pretty close, but
maybe it was actually Brian Payton, Sean's brother.
Because if you have to look at the video very closely because there's a shadow over his face. So it's the lighting of it. I didn't see it, and I looked at a picture of him compared to that. That could be questionable. So I don't know.
It may be questionable that was actually John Morant.
We live in a world of deep fakes and all sorts of stuff where you can use digital means to change just about anything. So definitely, but if it is, to be honest, one, who cares? Yeah. Two, don't put yourself on video doing that stuff if you expect people to care.
But at the same time,
him. You're an adult. Do what you want to do. You're not harming anybody. Be an adult. Yeah. Simple as that.
Now, Jim Tim, Coach Bald.
What?
Man, that was a deep sigh when I mentioned Coach Bald's name.
It's like,
okay, Coach Bald labeled you the next Tony Robbins. How do you feel about Tony Robbins? Coach Bald loves Tony Robbins. He thinks he walks on water. How do you feel about Tony Robbins?
I guess okay. That's his opinion. I don't know. As I said, I don't compare to anybody. I'm just the original James Tim.
The original James Tim. Now, I have compared you to Lex Luger.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, Lex Luger and Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, first of all, don't compare me to Lex Luger because Lex Luger did steroids.
Well, everybody has fallen short, and Lex
Yeah.
Luger now has become a great American. And
but you also have to keep in mind he lost everything for just what he did.
Yeah.
What you're saying to me is, yes, everybody falls short, but look what he did. He's pretty much paralyzed now.
Mm.
So, yeah, he's a great American, fine,
was it worth it?
No.
Whitney Houston. I just watched the movie I Want to Dance with Somebody. And it wasn't I Want to Dance with Bobby Brown. All right. Which I really enjoyed because I am a huge fan of Whitney Houston. Coach Hutch, are you a fan of Whitney Houston?
I am.
Jim Tim.
That's all he said.
When I say Whitney Houston, what pops in your mind?
Her voice.
Her voice. Wow. What an amazing voice.
The Bodyguard.
Where were you? The Bodyguard. And she did not want to do The Bodyguard. She told Clive Adams, what's his name? Whatever the guy's name was that discovered her. She said if you wanted to do a movie, he said, I'll find you a script. A couple of years later, he hands her The Bodyguard. And he said it's about a famous music star that has a bodyguard and falls in love or whatever. She takes the script and goes, no, throws it down. And she was like, well, who's the bodyguard? And he said, Kevin Costner. She said, hold on. She picked that junk up and said, okay, yeah, that no was a yes. As soon as she found out that Kevin Costner.
Interesting tangent fact on the Bodyguard. They were going to make Bodyguard 2 with Princess Diana. And she died like the week before they were going to announce it.
Bodyguard 2 with Princess Diana?
Yes, sir.
Was she going to play herself?
She was going to play herself. Maybe not herself, but still, somebody in royalty.
Who was the bodyguard protecting her from the paparazzi?
I think it was still going to be Kevin Costner.
Man, Kevin Costner, he was the man.
He still is.
Yellowstone, Coach James Tim. I call you Jim. Jim Tim. How do you feel about Kevin Costner's career? What's his greatest movie, in your opinion?
I would have to think about.
Field of Dreams.
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham's great too.
You're going with Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. I'm going with, the magic words.
The Untouchables.
Elliot Ness. Ooh. The Untouchables. Why were they untouchable, Jim Tim?
I don't know.
They were untouchable because they owned the law enforcement.
I'm thinking of the Kevin Costner movie with when he played in it was back in the 1980s. Something to do with water or something. It was the earth was covered.
Oh,
actually, that is the worst movie.
That's
Jim Tim, actually the worst movie of all time.
But the history of the planet.
This is America, and we are all able to have our own opinion, Jim Tim.
I can't remember the name of it though.
It was 95 and it was Waterworld.
Well,
there we go.
Waterworld.
That was okay. I can tolerate that one, but
So not Dancing with Wolves, not Bodyguard, not The Untouchables, not Bull Durham, not Field of Dreams, Waterworld. You have heard it first here.
Oh, jeez. Don't quote me.
Waterworld is Kevin Costner's best movie. Impressive.
Well, the fact that you had Kevin Costner and the great late Dennis Hopper in that movie, and the amount of budget that they spent on that movie could have been good, but it wasn't. It was
See, that's
terrible.
not my favorite actor, though.
Who, Dennis Hopper?
No, the guy you
Costner?
mentioned. Yeah,
Who's your favorite actor, Coach Jim Tim?
Denzel Washington.
Denzel. I just watched Man on Fire again.
What's your favorite Denzel Washington movie, Jim Tim?
Hurricane Carter.
Wow.
Hurricane, yeah.
I'm gonna go with one that most people probably haven't seen, or is one of his lesser known movies. I'm going with Antoine Fisher. I love Training Day.
Yeah, Training Day is one of my favorite.
Antoine Fisher is an underrated movie. Did you know, Jim Tim, that Denzel met Antoine Fisher at a movie set? He was a security guard, and he met him and learned about his story, and he had written a screenplay. He had written a book about his life, and he found out about it, and that's how the movie got made. So, do you know the story, Jim Tim? In 1975, when Denzel Washington had failed out of college, what the woman told him in his mom's beauty salon. Have you ever heard of this?
I know what you're referencing, but I do not know what he said.
He was sitting in the beauty salon, and an old woman kept looking at him, Coach Hutch. And she'd look at him, and he'd look away, and he saw that she was staring at him. And she said, "Give me a pencil and paper. I have a prophecy." And she wrote down on the piece of paper the date in 1975, and she wrote, "You will travel in many countries and talk in front of millions of people." And that was the motivation that he needed Jim Tim to take him to the next level. That is the motivation, Jim Tim, that you provide to Totem Pole Nation on a daily basis. What motivation do you have? How's the competition going?
Doing well. Still ranked 10th. Have to get in the top 15, but doing well. Always looking for opportunities, always looking for chances. Anybody willing to vote and share? Great. We'll do it together, one vote, one share at a time.
Now, Coach Hutch, we caught some flack for having the CFC clinic on Mother's Day. There were some people that made comments saying, "On Mother's Day, ? And I said, this is the special Mother's Day edition. How did your Mother's Day go, Coach Hutch? What did y'all do for your mom?
Well, it went well. I worked on Mother's Day, so they can hate on me too, because, got to make the bread. But my mom got to see my niece and nephew and brother and sister-in-law and everybody, and had a really good day. And my mom's birthday falls within a week of Mother's Day, typically. So we went to Maggiano's, and I bought her. She likes that Barefoot Contessa on HGTV or TLC or Food Network or one of those, and bought her a cake made by the Barefoot Contessa.
Wow. So. Now, the other day, Jim Tim, I don't know if you saw it, but Coach McNally posted a picture of his wife, and he said, "This is my wife, Carolyn, taken yesterday."
Mm-hmm.
And there was an outrage throughout Twitter. He received over 1,000 messages, but he meant that the picture was taken. It was a misunderstanding. That's when I had you praying for him. It was a misunderstanding. He meant to say the picture was taken. My mom has been passed away for over 10 years now. So Mother's Day ain't the same. How do you feel about Mother's Day, Jim Tim?
It's a good holiday, but as I said, let people talk. Maybe people don't, maybe they misunderstood it. Maybe they don't know how to read. Maybe they should learn how to read.
Man. Jim Tim, I think the heel is coming out of you. Now, what is that shirt there you have there? What jersey is that, Jim? Is that Boise State?
Yeah.
You are a true fan.
Yeah.
You are Boise State University. All right. You have a true fan in Jim Tim. We need some gear sent to Jim Tim. Send it to Rochester, New York. Everybody in America knows Jim Tim. All right. I'm going to get up with Scott Peterson. I'm going to get some of his old Boise State gear. Might even get a piece of that blue turf. How do you feel about blue turf? Did that give them an unfair advantage?
At first, maybe back in the day, because not many people knew about the way they do things. But you have to also keep in mind that led to other things. That led to like Eastern Washington, red field. That led to Eastern Michigan gray field. That led to Ohio Buckeyes pink locker rooms.
Now, what is the reason that Hayden Fry had the visiting locker room painted pink?
I think it's incriminating to people. People don't want to look at that stuff.
I'll say it's calming. That's one of the things what they do when they paint different colors in different places. Pink is one of the calming colors. So you put that in your visitor locker room, you're calming that team down.
Maybe.
We're getting ready to go play a football game. Well, they're all relaxed and chill because they're sitting in a pink room.
Now, Tim, you asked a very interesting question.
What?
When we had Bob Wiley on, you asked him what he eats for his pregame meal. And Bob Wiley laughed and said, well, what time is the game? All right, because you asked this question at 3 o'clock and we finally got around to answering it at 8 p.m. You were not watching for 5 hours. All right, so Tim, what do you eat for your pregame meal?
I would probably say either egg whites or omelet.
Big omelet guy. Coach Hutch, what do you eat for your pregame meal?
It's been a while since I've had a pregame meal as a competitor.
And what about as a coach? What do you eat on Friday nights? What do you eat on Thursday nights?
Thursday night, whatever the parents provide. So pasta, pizza. Fridays, typically, we're getting a sub or something.
Yeah, we find food.
Yeah.
Or food finds us.
Dante's,
it's a party.
Something.
It is a party. Now, I had people that contacted Totem Pole Nation and wanted to know why our school has the U. The school that we coach at, we're known as the U. And so I'm going to answer that right now, Tim, because about 20 years ago, a letter was written to the Virginia High School League saying, who do they think they are? The Miami Hurricanes. Now, Tim, when you think about the U, you think about the Miami Hurricanes. What pops in your head?
I would probably say Miami. Or that or Utah State.
Utah State. That's interesting. Why does Utah State pop in your head when I mention the Miami Hurricanes?
Because of their logo on their helmet.
Are you saying that Utah State had the first U?
No, they didn't have the first U. I'm just saying what you just asked me what it represented, what it basically. So look at their logo. So
okay. So the first thing that pops in my head is Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson and the Miami Hurricanes getting off the plane to play Penn State. It's the first football game I remember. I remember my dad hated Joe Paterno. He said he was a crybaby. Jimmy Johnson, the Miami Hurricanes, wearing the OD green Vietnam era, post-World War II era camo. Looking like they are getting ready to go into Grenada. And that's my memory of the U. What do you think, Coach Hutch, when you hear about the U, Miami Hurricanes?
Well, I just think, my personal opinion about how they were very dominant back when. A lot of guys went there and a lot of guys went out of there to the NFL. Looking at the traditions of the University of Miami, their answer is University had gone several years with a variety of helmet and uniform changes, and the Federation noted that a number of colleges had the initials UM. Miami designer Bill Bodenhammer suggested the U idea, which lent itself to slogans like, you gotta believe, U is great. That is direct from University of Miami.
Yeah. Howard Schnellenberger. Howard Schnellenberger was the one that turned the U around. He called it the state of Miami, which was from Tampa South. Nobody was getting out of the state of Miami. Man. And now, Tim, how does it feel to have a member of Totem Pole Nation such as Alex Maribal, the offensive line coach, as a resource to you and as a mentor and someone you can network with?
Another great resource and another great person to represent.
Amen. Coach Hutch, what does it mean to you to have people like Alex Maribal, Coach McNally? We got to get your strength coach on, the GOAT, Mike Gentry. Now, Coach Newsom, the head coach of Emory Henry, is going to come on with Mike Smith, the GOAT, Hampton High, 16 state championships, 500 wins. But Mike Gentry, working with a GOAT like him, what are the three things, Coach Hutch, that you take from working under Mike Gentry, the legendary strength coach of Frank Beamer's Virginia Tech?
The first thing in terms of the weight room is form comes first, I would say. And he has a passion and desire. He surrounded himself with people that also wanted success. You know, that was something that the first day when I walked in, I was like, hold on, you got, 3 assistant coaches and 4 graduate assistants all right there to help propel you to reach your maximum potential. So, keeping the form, having people with like-mindedness around you. And honestly, he was just a really approachable guy. You could talk to him whenever. If you had any questions, you just wanted to, if he wasn't busy doing something, if you had an opportunity to chit-chat with him, you could. And that was, just making yourself accessible. But the guy is the GOAT, wrote the book, A Chance to Win, a complete guide to strength and conditioning for football. And the guy really is the GOAT. I mean, I basically model everything that I do off of what he teaches and what he taught. Even, Coach, when you had your coaches clinic and he spoke at it, I was a player under the guy. I trained under the guy. He was my mentor. I still went and watched him speak just to continue it.
So you actually went to the championship football coaches clinic when Coach Gentry spoke?
Yes.
Wow. And how many years was that before you started coaching here with me?
At least 7 or 8, maybe even 9.
Did you ever think that we would be coaching together?
No. At the time, at most of my career, no. Just, I've been at the school I graduated from. I go to Florida to, pursue wrestling, but needed health insurance. So I get back into teaching down there. And then come back in the pandemic, threw a whole wrench and everything. And then, long story short, landed a job at LC Bird. And I can't say anything, but it's been awesome. And we're in the infancy of it. We still got a long way to go, but man, we could be at the top and fighting people off the top of the mountain for years.
For the people who have never been to the in-person championship football coaches clinic, what would you say it is like? And Tim, I'm going to come back to you so you can comment on the podcast because you're a loyal follower of the podcast. But Coach Hutch, what was that clinic like when you went in person?
It was, you saw like every coach, like every coach was there wanting to learn from other coaches. I just remember sitting in rooms and everybody's got their notepads ready to go, getting everything. And then really the connections that people were making too. Everybody had business cards and whatnot, and you could still reach out to them. And if you had questions about any of their topics, not just strength and conditioning, but coverages or blocking schemes, you could actually still reach out past that clinic. So it wasn't just that 30 minutes or hour or 90 minutes that you were there. Like, you created this relationship and these opportunities for coaches still to continue to stay connected.
Well, Coach Tim, how long have you been watching the Championship Football Coaches Clinic on Totem Pole Nation, and what has the podcast meant to you?
I would say you have the exact date, Troy, but I would say probably 6 months or more.
6 months. Well,
I would
maybe
I
it
would
was
say.
before Christmas.
I'm not really totally sure, but I believe 6 months. What has it meant to me? It's helped me different ways in different avenues, trying to build friendships, build allies that I can run things off of, ideas and perspectives.
Who's your favorite speaker that you've listened to, Jim Tim, since the podcast has been coming on?
I would say probably either the guy from Virginia Tech that came from East Stroudsburg,
Brent Pry,
or the guy you just had from VMI that just retired.
Yeah, Coach Wackenheim, a great Christian man.
Because I just recently talked to him.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome, Coach.
To me, it would be Coach Old School.
Well, Coach Old School, rest in peace. Rest in peace. I've just got word that Coach Old School has passed away.
Moved on and transcended
this
realm of being.
He was taken, an old coach from Appalachia, Coach Jim Tim, and he was the old school of the old school. But he is no longer with us. We got Coach McNally instead. Coach McNally took his place, just like Coach Bald took Coach Lambeau's place. You know, Jim Tim, Bill Belichick, why is he one of the best of all time, in your opinion?
Oh, good grief. He was one of the very first people who created the stable. He was the one that basically put the things in place where you had the great defenses, the people that came from him. He's the one of the very first people that started that. You wouldn't have had Nick Saban before Parcells.
Yeah, all three great defensive coaches. Coach Hutch, why is Bill Belichick one of the best?
It's his record. I mean, you can't knock somebody that's got a record like that.
Yeah.
You know, you win multiple, it was the age-old question that we answered, was it Brady made Belichick or Belichick make Brady? I don't think you have an answer for either of those, honestly. I think Brady was his own guy. Belichick was his own guy. I think Belichick used the weapons that he had, or he would develop them too, because he looked at a lot of the guys that he would take that weren't taken by other teams, and he turned them into, utility guys or actual usable resources. And you had these smaller guys putting up big numbers. Belichick just knows his craft.
Man,
it was specifically what you're talking about, Coach Hutch. There was a documentary specifically talking about what you're talking about. What Belichick did, he put their talents. He specifically in the draft, he would recruit that specific position at least 4 deep, and then basically he say, okay, that's what made his defenses more hybrid. He didn't have the typical defensive end. He didn't have the typical linebackers.
So he thought outside the box is what you're saying. All right, Coach Hutch. Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, it's like coaches come and go, but they are consistently winners. Totem Pole Nation, we've had people come and go, but Coach Hutch is one of the originals. He is one of the originals. The first video we ever made on Totem Pole Nation was, did Brady make Belichick or did Belichick make Brady? I should have asked Coach Grow that. All right, so Coach Hutch, I know you got to go. All right, so shout out our sponsors. What's your life lesson, Jim Tim, before Coach Hutch sends us off. What's your life lesson for today?
Start the day off with a smile, make somebody better, encourage them, push them to be the best person they can be.
That's the Tony Robbins. That's the Tony Robbins. That's the reason you were compared to Tony Robbins. Coach Hutch.
Well, I'm going to go off of the title of the Underestimating Stupidity. We already kind of talked about that earlier, but in that same plane of thought or train of thought, whatever you want to say, people aren't going to know unless you tell them a lot of times. That's something I've learned as a teacher, and just, making anecdotes, making jokes, throwing it back to different generations, and the look on some people's faces like they've never seen it, never done it. Don't expect somebody to know exactly what you're talking about unless you educate them on what you are talking about, or unless you ask questions. Do you know about what's going on? Because some people will just nod in agreement and you think everything's all good, and then you have no idea whether or not they actually understood you.
Amen, brother. Life lesson for me is showing up is half the battle. If you don't show up, you can't get better. So some people just need to start off by showing up. Jim Tim always shows up. He does 3 workouts a day. Coach Hutch, send us off. Tell us about Cultivate Wellness.
Cultivate Wellness. Check them out. CultivateWellness.com. All natural CBD infused edibles, capsules, tinctures, you name it. Like I said before, the muscle rub is absolutely amazing. Jim Tim, we're going to send you some of that stuff here for all your workouts. It is great on the joints. And then definitely St. Pete Rejuvenate. You're in the St. Pete area. Check them out. Hydration therapy, ketamine infusion therapy, skincare therapy, all sorts of good stuff. St. Pete Rejuvenate. Now, Coach Taylor, it's Monday. It's the start of a great week.
Let's get better. Everybody vote for Jim Tim. The link is in the comments. The link is in the comments right there. Vote for Jim Tim. So we will be back tomorrow.
I got 3 days left until they have to then vote top 15. So
let's get it, man.
Get it done.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Totem Pole Nation, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking in. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and we'll have more for you here in the future.